I used to be a business journalist, but about 22 years ago, somebody said, can't you help some of the victims rather than writing about the villains? It seemed like a good idea. And I founded a company, the first in the UK to do so, which is dedicated to helping people get their cases heard fairly and quickly. All this lot here are our Barclays files. They're the Barclays Ombudsman Service files. There's another bunch in there which haven't yet got to the Ombudsman Service. But these are mostly people who invested in the global income funds, which were wildly overdescribed and were very risky. And they're causing us quite a lot of work, but we're getting there slowly. We're bringing a lot of the people who need help here to meet their MP, and I'm going to give the MPs all the technical information about the way the Financial Services Authority hasn't done its job right, the way Barclays has run rings round the regulators and is cheating tens of thousands of investors of compensation for bad advice. A year or two before the crash, Barclays persuaded 12,331 people to invest in very high-risk funds and told their customers they weren't very risky. People lost a fortune, the funds went down by 60%, and Barclays is liable for their losses because they didn't tell them how risky the funds were. It's quite inexcusable.
I was employed by Barclays for 25.5 years till I was made redundant. And I'd invested money in the Barclays SAYE share save scheme for years while I worked there. When I cashed 10,000 myself, I was approached by their financial advisor who advised me to go in the Morley Fund.
What people don't realise is that bank advisors aren't really advisors, they're salespeople. The bank gets a whopping commission from any money invested. If it's an investment bond, they take 7 or 8% straight off. For other investments, 5%. And the salesmen are required to convert the leads they get from the cashiers into business. So somebody gets a legacy of 50,000 from a great aunt, pays into their account. The cashier says, go and speak to our advisor. He'll make sure you get proper return on your money. And what the advisor says is, give me as much of it as you can, because he needs to sell £2 million worth of business a month, a year, whatever it is, or he gets the sack. So it's a sales-led racket rather than the genuine business of giving advice.
And they said I needed £50,000 to go in. To do that, I gave them all my Barclays shares, my electricity shares, sold all my premium bonds, which came to 54,000. The product the bank sold me should have been a balanced fund, and it was actually an adventurous fund. And within, I think it was about 18 months, my holding had gone down by 40%.
What very few people know, and that's what we went to the House of Commons to, was that Barclays has done a dirty deal with the regulators, the Financial Services Authority, which means they're not paying the right amounts, and in half the cases they're paying nothing at all. So today we went along to speak to half a dozen MPs with about 30 of our clients. They told them their own individual story, and MPs are very good when they meet constituents who've had a problem. They will write letters to Barclays, they'll write letters to the FSA, and they will support us in our fight. They were all shocked to discover how many people had been cheated and how little Barclays has paid out.
I certainly think we've got a real problem with our banks, because quite clearly there's been a culture of trying to rip people off, to put it mildly, and we need to look at the way that financial advisors operate, and we need to look at what safeguards there could be to stop people falling prey to malpractice.
Back in 2005, I had a car accident, and I had money that I was then retired, so I had a certain amount of money. And then my husband's mother died and left us another portion of money, and we went to Barclays for advice on how to invest this money. It apparently appears now that they should have told us to get rid of our mortgage first of all, but rather than that they put it into an investment, and we said that this was all the money we had left in the world, and we wanted it in a low risk.
We started getting a statement which was showing that we were losing First year I think it was £3,000. They then said, oh, leave it, best to leave it and it will. Eventually they came back to us stating that they realised that a number of investors, including ourselves, had been wrongly categorised. And we were put into a medium risk where we should have been placed in a low risk.
When it was sold to us in 2007, they already knew that it was the wrong thing. They knew that in 2005, and they were still selling the product in 2007. And that, it makes me really livid when I think about it.
These people need redress. They need bodies that they can go to that can help them. They can go to the Financial Ombudsman, they can go to the FSA, but again, we need to look at what the powers are, what can be done, and how can that really have an effect on the banks.
The reason all my clients and thousands more deserve compensation is that they were almost all retired people who couldn't take big risks and were persuaded that they were investing in cautious or medium-rated funds, which didn't have huge risks. It wasn't the case. The balance fund fell by 60% in the crash. That's more than half their money wiped out. And Barclays has been quite unscrupulous. First in selling the products, getting a large commission of course, and then when people lost a fortune and they complained, not paying them the right amount of money. That's what we do as a business. We make sure people get paid the right amount of money. It does help a lot having a professional person putting your claim forward, discovering facts which you didn't think were relevant. The couple I mentioned who had a mortgage, they didn't see that as a ground for complaint. I had to point it out to them that they should have paid off their mortgage first. And you have to bear in mind that in running a complaint, one is up against a very professional organisation, a bank and its complaint handlers, and they're designed not to give people money, to give people as little as they can if they have to hold their hands up. It's quite a fight, and they will try and extract information which can make them present the story in a different way. And we stop that happening because we get the truth, we get the facts, and then we present them properly. It's not just Barclays. We're looking at a lot of Halifax cases at the moment, and they're really about as bad as Barclays. People are put into investment bonds, which are inefficient from a tax point of view. Very, very many times, these people have mortgages, often with the Halifax. So if you owe the Halifax $65,000 and you get $30,000, what should you do? Pay off your mortgage, obviously. But the financial advisor says, no, give the money to us to invest. And it loses money usually. My advice to someone who's thinking of investments is first, don't speak to your bank. Try and find one or possibly two independent financial advisors. Most of them are fairly honest. Most of them are quite professional. They will want to invest your money, but hopefully they won't take too much of it. If you're investing for the first time in something which is risky, you shouldn't put all your money in. You need help, but you can't get it from the banks, I'm afraid. So the fight is on. It's going to be a long one, but we'll win in the end. We'll get all our clients what they're owed, all their losses from being given bad investment advice. And it was shocking investment advice.